Thanks for joining me on episode 758 of the Inspired Stewardship Podcast.
I'm Joel Hallbaker, teacher, speaker, and author of Inverted Leadership. I challenge you to invest in yourself, invest in others, develop your influence, and impact the world by using your time, your talent, and your treasures to live out your calling. Having the ability to lead through confident humility is key, and one way to be inspired to do that is to listen to this, the Inspired Stewardship Podcast with my friend, Scott Mader.
But they find that passion by working in the margins, by finding the areas and edges and doing the things they love until they identify them, because it's only out of doing that we begin to find our passion. Now, I also want to caution this. I've also seen folks that have that side activity or that hobby, something that they're passionate about, that they love to do, and they try to turn it into a business.
Welcome and thank you for joining us on the Inspired Stewardship Podcast. If you truly desire to become the person who God wants you to be, then you must learn to use your time, your talent, and your treasures for your true calling. In the Inspired Stewardship Podcast, you will learn to invest in yourself, invest in others, and develop your influence so that you can impact the world.
In today's episode about investing in yourself by stewarding your time, I talk with you about why it's often in the margins that we really find our passion. I share why your side thing may be the main thing, but I also talk about why you may or may not want to make your passion your career. As we talk about stewarding your time, wouldn't it be great if you could support this podcast and do it without just taking too long? Turns out you can't. All you have to do is use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon when you're ready to make a purchase via Amazon, and a small commission will come back to support the show just that quick. If you enjoy the show when you are ready to buy from Amazon, just use inspiredstewardship.com/Amazon. When it comes to time and productivity and what we do with our lives, one of the things that I find interesting is where we often find our passions is in those margins around everything else. That often life and enjoyment and passion happens not in the core times, but around the edges of things, especially early on when we're trying to figure out what is our passion in life. Often we end up with a job or a career that we're doing. It's not necessarily something that we hate or don't enjoy doing, but it's not really our core passion, or at least some parts of it aren't. And we begin to wonder, is there more out there in life? Is there something else I should be doing? Do I have a calling of other things that I should be focused on instead? And as we begin to wonder that, we often begin to read, we begin to listen to podcasts or study other things or look into other activities. Maybe we develop some hobbies. We begin to hang out with other folks and talk to them about what they enjoy doing. We may even find something that we find passion around that we start doing as a side hustle or activity on the side that allows us to be paid. We may find some activities about our day job that we really love, and we begin to try to expand and find a way to do those more while reducing the things that we hate. All too often, it's in those edges that we begin to resonate and find the things we love. Now, I want to be clear. There's very seldom any job or career or business or anything else that you do where 100% of what you do every single day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, is in your passion. But you can find things that maximize that passion. You can find things that increase your activities that you do, that add energy and bring you up, and reduce the things that bring you down and drain your energy. Your side activities may actually be where you find the things that turn into a career, that turn into a business, that turn into something that grows into your main thing. Time after time after time, I work with clients in making that transition. I work with a lot of folks that are in a corporate job or they're doing something and they enjoy it. There's parts of it they love, but there's huge parts of it that they really can't stand. And over on the side, there may be a little activity that they do that right now they're not sure exactly how it can turn into a business. But as we begin to nurture and focus and get their financial life in order and get their time life in order so that they find the productivity, as we begin to identify their passions, that side thing grows and grows and grows and turns into something that becomes a dream business for them. Doesn't mean it's perfect. There's no such thing as perfection in business, but it does grow into something where the majority of their time is spent doing the things that they're most passionate about. But they find that passion by working in the margins, by finding the areas and edges and doing the things they love until they identify them, because it's only out of doing that we begin to find our passion. Now, I also want to caution this. I've also seen folks that have that side activity or that hobby, something that they're passionate about, that they love to do, and they try to turn it into a business, and they discover that turns something that they love into something that they no longer enjoy. It drains out the joy out of doing it. So it isn't always that you take your side hustle or your side passion or something that you love doing and turning it into a business. It can be something that creates and drains all the life out of that activity. So you have to be careful about identifying, is this something that you really want to turn into a long-term job or career? Or is this just an area where you want it to be something you love that stays a side activity or a passion or a mission-driven activity that occupies part of your life? There isn't really a right answer or wrong answer to that. It's not like one way of doing it is always right for all people. Instead, it's something that you have to be intentional about designing. What do you want things to look like? What do you want this to become? How do you want it to look for you and for your family? And only out of doing and playing and dreaming can you really design the passion that you want, where it moves out of the margins and becomes central to your life. Thanks for listening.
Thanks so much for listening to the Inspired Stewardship podcast. As a subscriber and listener, we challenge you to not just sit back and passively listen, but act on what you've heard and find a way to live your calling. If you like this episode on the stewardship of time, be sure to sign up for our Stewardship of Time Tips series by going to inspiredstewardship.com/time or texting 44222 time tips, and that'll get you our best tips on stewarding your time. Until next time, invest your time, your talent, and your treasures. Develop your influence and impact the world.